Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. We basically just had confirmation of a new gigafactory in Indonesia, although looking at the stock price, you wouldn't be able to tell. Remember when it used to be such a big deal when Tesla would announce a new location for another factory? Not only that, even confirmation of a 3-for-1 split only raised the stock price something like 1% when it was announced after hours. No one cares anymore. We're too focused now on what will happen in the actual economy. It's a macro game, rather than just studying the fundamentals of one company. Fortunately though, we have been studying the fundamentals of Tesla, and as a result, we know this company should fare better than many others during the coming times. Okay, I get these comments continually like, who's going to spend $100,000 on an electric car in a recession? This is often in reference to the Cybertruck. Well, for starters, by the time the Cybertruck is into volume production, the recession should be close to the end, and we should be into the recovery period soon. Besides, if that was really the case, then wouldn't Ferrari's stock price be down massive? It's only down about 20% from where it was last year. Perhaps the rich will still have money during these times. That might imply enough consumers can also afford a $100,000 Cybertruck, what with it having an even longer waiting list than a Ferrari. We have massive inflation and we need to compress the economy with rates to discourage spending so prices fall. As we've discovered, this is an effective solution to inflation, as painful as it may be. But a lot of this inflation we're seeing is due to the rising oil prices. And before you say that energy is only about 15% of CPI or something, sure, but oil is felt in the cost of everything. Anything that had to be mined or transported in any possible way, it had to use oil. If the cost of oil has increased, that is felt through everything in the economy, and hence why it is exacerbating inflation so much more. On the flip side, as a lot of this inflation is caused by high oil prices, these prices are also reflected at the pump. This expensive place where people go with ice cars to hang out. Now think about a rational consumer. Economic times are bad. They have this car that is costing a fortune to run, having to fill it with gas. They look for cost savings, and an electric car is obviously a way to save on gas bills, and consumers are learning that more. Yeah, but not everyone can afford a new electric car. Sure, I'm not saying they can, but I'm saying everyone who can afford a new electric car might buy one. I mean, even in a recession, there's still going to be about 10 million new cars sold in the US each year. Even if Tesla make 1 million in the US next year, then there's still going to be enough customers. I've been warning about a potential crash from late last year and was even looking at preparing an insurance portfolio. This was before there was even a war. This was solely due to all the spending we'd seen and me saying that this was inevitably going to cause inflation. At that stage, we'd all achieved some great profits with our Tesla shares, and I thought it might be sensible to lock some of this profit in to carry me through any potentially tumultuous times by shorting some stocks with put options to hedge against a potential market crash, and end up profiting enough to cover my mortgage payments through what may be tough times. Anyway, long story short, I decided to play long one more time and got hurt, but managed to recover enough again to lock in some profits in cash. In fact, it was so much profit, it was about as much as I intended to make shorting the market to cover my mortgage. So here I am now, with enough cash to cover my mortgage payments for the next 3 years, locked in at a rate of 4.5% interest over that period. This is a Tesla investment channel, but I take a conservative investment approach. I don't leverage up buying a margin or risk losing it all. I haven't risked losing my house, hence a cash buffer. If things get really bad, I can always sell my Teslas and buy them again when things get better. That's the great thing about buying a Tesla. It's a lot more liquid than other cars, as it's easy to sell and holds its value, and has a waiting list. Anyway, selling my Teslas won't be the end of the world. I'd rather sell my cars than shares. Anyway, I don't preach going all in Tesla, selling your house, borrowing everything you can. I just say to buy and hold. That's all we can do. No one can predict the future, especially not black swan events. But we can look at the past and judge that statistically, if we invest long enough, the market will recover. Okay, I do have 10% of my portfolio in a high-risk options trading strategy too, but it's a calculated risk. Except we didn't buy some index fund, we bought into the future, and hence why we study and analyse the stock and company relentlessly, especially through the more difficult times. And what has our analysing told us? Remember, despite Tesla's stock price, it's actually a small car company when it comes to the actual number of vehicles produced, especially when we compare it to the likes of Toyota. But even the exclusive brands like Mercedes make 2 to 3 times the quantity of Tesla. Tesla can't make close to enough vehicles to meet their demand. In fact, Tesla just released the Model Y into Australia, and instantly the waiting list increased 3 months. Even Tesla have massively underestimated their demand for Australia. Australia has high fuel prices and a reasonably affluent population. They also have no local auto industry anymore, since Ford and Holden closed down. Also, although a Tesla is more expensive in nations like Australia or New Zealand, well, so are all the cars there. In fact, the dealers put massive margins on new cars. It's actually a thing. As a result, you can import much cheaper vehicles from nearby nations like Singapore and Japan. However, Tesla is not taking this pricing model of rip off the customer. Therefore, you will find that Teslas are more competitively priced against the competition like BMW in these countries. It's also a huge novelty for them to finally get a Tesla Model Y in Australia. I've been hearing reports of Australians getting so desperate they've been buying BYD vehicles, so this will come as a huge relief to many. Yup, a brand new market Tesla just opened into, and it may be a little too early to call, but I'm going to anyway. It looks like the Model Y will become the best-selling car in Australia, at least as soon as Tesla can make enough of them. Because they can't make enough, and that's the point. Even through a recession, Tesla will continue to ramp up. They're not looking at slowing down or downsizing, unlike, I would say, the ICE industry. So if the ICE industry is downsizing, as they are already in enough trouble as it is, that would mean that there's less supply of ICE vehicles, or vehicles in general, which would only mean more new car buyers turn to Teslas. And that's really the thing in a recession. Businesses lose demand, fewer customers purchasing fewer items, spending less. This obviously affects revenue, which further affects profits. So company profits are down, and the market has readjusted, especially with higher rates, and now offers a much lower PE ratio. So perhaps with profits down 30%, and then PE ratio is down 30%, your company's valuation is suddenly 50% of what it was. The thing is, we expect Tesla's revenue to keep increasing as they still have the demand, and they're ramping up production. For starters, we still have these huge waiting lists. They're buffers for demand. In fact, Tesla could decide to raise the price by $5,000 and the waiting list may only be 3 months then, but the car would still sell. Therefore, if demand is dwindling in a recession, it won't mean lost sales for Tesla, it could just mean shorter waiting lists. But this being Tesla, we don't know. There's a high possibility waiting lists increase further. Maybe due to higher oil prices, fewer ICE vehicles, the electric vehicle movement, subsidies, lots of possibilities. But if demand did drop so much that it ate up the waiting list, well, Tesla have another buffer. They can do the inverse of what I suggested above. Tesla have enormous profit margins. Not just that, they have insane operating margins too. As a result, they could drop the price of these vehicles by about 20% and likely still break even through a recession, which is also great when you don't have any debt. Remember, the automotive is a cyclical industry, and it always has been, but Tesla's growth should still be unstoppable, and any cycles should just result in fluctuations of waiting times for a new Tesla. But Tesla may very well have to raise prices due to inflation. They have to pay more for supplies. They have to pay increased wages too. Yes, costs could rise, but that's the same for everyone. Tesla can raise their prices to pass on the cost to the consumer. The competition will also be suffering and have to raise prices too, except they can't, so they may just go under. Less competition means more demand for Tesla. When I say competition, I'm just talking about ICE vehicles. And what about the EV competition? If EVs are becoming this popular, then shouldn't Legacy ramp up their production of EVs? Okay, well, in a recession, would you want to ramp up production of something that makes a huge loss? Especially when the other side of your business is collapsing. Anyway, crazy times, obviously. I don't know what is a safe investment right now. Selling up and going into cash could end up being the worst decision right now. At the same time, the markets are crashing. Right now for me, it's time to batten down the hatches. I think I've secured enough cash to get through this better than most. And I think that's how this game plays. That's saying that you don't have to outrun a bear if it's chasing you. You just have to outrun the slowest person. It's musical chairs right now. I've done what I can to make sure I have a seat when the music stops. Have you? Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.